So good afternoon. I'm looking for that local chapter AFCEA volunteer that's supposed to replace me, but yeah, there he is. Oh, okay. I'll kick this off and then I'll disappear. How's that? That'll be fair. So this is a presentation that's available for part of the certification program. So those of you should be familiar with that by now. On the way out, stop and scan your badge. And if you've not done it before, lay it flat. It doesn't like it. You got to kind of lean over and lay it flat under the reader and it'll happen for you. The other comment is the session is recorded, fully recorded. And so my replacement's going to get this mic. And then for questions at the end, I want the questions on the mic so that it gets in and becomes part of the presentation and recording. My last comment is I am Denny Moan. I'm AFCEA member for 56 years. I joined this chapter in 1969. I think I'm probably the oldest member at this point. But those of you that are not members, I would offer that you consider doing that. For my own professional growth, both in the Army and after I left the Army, it's been a really important part of making me successful in my career and starting my own business, engineering companies almost 25 years ago. So it remained important to me in my life. So I encourage you to consider that. And then I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let our speaker take over. And I'm going to go out the door. I've been here since 7:30 this morning, break time. New guy.
Okay, great. I'm Bill Bach, retired lieutenant colonel, work at Merlin Cyber. And if you have any problems with your badging, scanning, let me know. When you want a question, just raise your hand. I'll bring you the mic. Come on. Let's get started.
Testing distance. There we go.
I didn't know if anybody
All right.
was coming.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
My name is Ben Brooks. I'm a systems engineer at Fortinet Federal, supporting Navy and USMC programs. Like as it was mentioned, right? If there's any questions, raise your hands. And it's always better if it's a conversation, a dialogue. So, with that, today we're going to talk about the ever-evolving world of operational technology, or OT security. Now, although Fortinet has many security solutions that can help secure OT systems, we're not talking about any product today. We're really just looking at real-world threats, maturity trends, the strategies that are actually working across industries, whether you're in defense or potentially, energy, manufacturing infrastructure. OT environments are being targeted more than ever, and they're harder to defend than most people realize. So here's how we'll break down the agenda today. We'll look at what makes OT different from IT. We'll look at key findings from Fortinet's 2025 State of OT and Cybersecurity Report. We'll take a look at the threat landscape, what's actually happening, and we'll look at maturity trends and best practices that are actually working, and strategic recommendations you can take back to your teams. So what makes OT unique? Operational technology is everywhere. Shipboard systems, airframe systems, power stations, HVAC, SCADA, factory automations. These systems control physical processes, and they're often safety critical. What makes them unique is their design. They were built for uptime, not security. They're deterministic, highly sensitive to change, and in many cases, decades old. The priorities are simply different. While information technology focuses on confidentiality and access limitations, OT is all about availability and safety. So what's happening in the OT space? For the last several years, similar to IT, OT has been undergoing massive transformation. We're seeing convergence with IT, increased remote access, and the introduction of technologies like 5G, industrial Internet of Things, and cloud into environments that were never meant to be exposed. At the same time, attackers are taking notice. Ransomware crews, nation states, and insiders all see OT as a high-value, high-impact target. Many people still assume that OT networks are air-gapped or completely isolated, but the reality today is different. Between vendor maintenance connections, remote operations, and shared infrastructure, truly air-gapped environments are becoming increasingly extinct. That means security assumptions need to change. The threats that once lived only in IT environments are now moving laterally into OT. Now, there's still a lot of benefits for how OT is modernizing. Better efficiency, visibility, predictive maintenance, but just like IT, it also comes with serious risk. Again, industrial control system devices typically weren't built with security in mind. Just patching OT systems can sometimes be risky or even impossible. So as we adopt modern technology, we also need modern protections that respect the sensitivities of these environments. So here's a quick snapshot of today's OT security challenges. Expanding attack surface, diminishing air gap, IT and OT convergence, adoption of IIoT, 5G and cloud, remote access, OEM and system integrator dependencies, and each of these expands exposure and makes coordinated security essential. So where are OT systems versus IT systems? While they both interact with different end systems, operational technology doesn't live in a vacuum. It's still part of a broader system that includes enterprise IT, cloud services, and vendor environments. Understanding where these intersect and where they're vulnerable is step one in building a defensible architecture. OT often lives further downstream than IT networks. In many cases, OT systems use specific OT protocols rather than things like IPs and MAC addresses to communicate with each other. This means that legacy IT solutions aren't normally designed to monitor or control the devices that live in an OT network. As they increasingly are connected together, that's starting to change, but still has a long way to go before most OT networks are fully secure. So we're going to start moving into the data from that 2025 security survey. The 2025 Global OT and Cybersecurity Study surveyed over 550 OT organizations globally across sectors like manufacturing, defense, energy, and transportation. The key takeaway is that attacks are increasing, both in frequency and impact, and most organizations are still catching up. OT infrastructure attacks are getting worse, and these attacks aren't random anymore. They're targeted. Attackers are tailoring malware to specific industries and OT protocols. And to successfully design and deploy security in any network, we need to consider the future trends and the regulatory requirements while learning from the lessons of the past. So looking at what the history proves, we have seen a rise in sophistication and quantity of cybersecurity attacks on OT infrastructures. OT systems are and will continue to be highly desirable for attackers, while many attacks use, again, tools that are purpose-built to target OT systems. Others targeting regular IT platforms end up causing damage in OT operations by impacting systems used to monitor and control OT platforms. This is why, in order to successfully secure OT, we also need to protect IT. Just kind of a blowout of the energy and utilities threat landscape. Now, this is a combination of data we've pulled from both that OT report as well as Fortinet's threat intelligence backend, FortiGuard Labs. So we're actually one of the most globally deployed firewalls. So that threat intelligence comes back to us at our research and development backend, and we can kind of correlate this information together to make sure that we've got the best reporting possible on this. So as you can see, right, global threats are 34 billion, a little bit more than that. And as we kind of move through this, you see that there's a lot of information and a lot of new signatures and threat intelligence that we've pulled together to make sure that our solutions and other threat intelligence agencies across the world have access to these threat prevention systems. So here's just kind of the global snapshot of that. Here's what it looks like for the manufacturing industry. Pretty similar. Some things are different, like the malware distribution. AV side of things, that went from 25 million on the previous slide to 95 million here for manufacturing. And that's because a lot of these kinds of malwares are evolving. So if we look at things like ransomware, it has also evolved. The average time from exploit to attack is now just 4.75 days, which is a 43% increase in speed from that exploit being developed to actually being executed on. So they're moving faster, hitting harder, and going after OT directly. On top of that, threat actors have moved beyond simple encryption to double, triple, and even quadruple extortion. So threat actors now encrypt your data, threaten to leak it, threaten to customers or end users, and then they destroy the backups or wipe it. So this is happening in OT environments where downtime isn't just expensive, it's operationally unacceptable. On the defense or national scale, it's easy to extrapolate how damaging attacks like this can be. So when attackers breach OT environments, they often start in IT. If we take a look at the cyber physical system attacks, we primarily see that the compromises happen initially at IT and then branch out from there. So phishing, credential abuse, and exposed services are the most common entry points for that. From there, they move laterally, often unnoticed, into the control systems. Visibility and segmentation are key to stopping that east-west movement. The convergence of IT and OT, which is driven by digital transformation, isn't slowing down. The benefits that we talked about are real, but they come with that additional exposure. Manufacturing and energy sectors are particularly at risk. OT attack kits like PipeDream have made it easier than ever to compromise these environments with little expertise required. PipeDream is a modular ICS malware framework. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife for OT attacks, targeting FINS, Modbus, CodeSys, OPC, UA, and more. And this kind of malware doesn't require deep knowledge of ICS internals. It lowers the bar and makes OT attacks more scalable. Remote access is the next kind of avenue we're looking at through the report. And it really is a double-edged sword. It's essential for maintenance and flexibility, but it also introduces major risk. According to Fortinet data, 54% of OT organizations support remote access. And that number is rising, but many organizations haven't fully addressed authentication, segmentation, or monitoring for those systems. That's one of the biggest gaps we see in the field assessments through this report. Remote access now accounts for 2 of the top 7 MITRE attack lateral movement techniques in ICS environments, and the cost of insider incidents, which is often enabled by that remote access, keeps rising. So again, these intrusions aren't contained anymore. We start in IT, and very often we see that move downstream to OT. In 2025, 60% of the attacks impacted both IT and OT systems. And once that compromise hits, it spreads. So this really reinforces the need for integrated monitoring, shared threat intelligence, and joint response planning. The good news on that side of things is that executive ownership is improving. In 2022, only 16% of the surveyed organizations had OT security under the CISO or a similar executive. Today, it's over 50%. So that shift brings things like budget, prioritization, and integration with enterprise risk management, which is exactly what OT security needs as the landscape continues to modernize and shift. Here's a few key stats from the 2025 OT report. 49% of those surveyed have level 4 process maturity, which is really continuous improvement of those security processes and the systems therein. 32% have level 2 solution maturity, which is access and profiling of the devices within their OT systems. 57% had at least one intrusion last year. 66% expect increased regulation within 5 years. So the gaps are narrowing, but they're still very real. So what's actually working according to the data that we've pulled? The best practices really fall into 5 categories: segmentation, visibility and control, security operations and incident response, platform-based security, and OT-specific threat intelligence. So if we break each of these down, segmentation is really the foundation of OT security. By creating zones and enforcing policy boundaries, we limit lateral movement and harden the environment. It also gives us visibility into assets, flows, supporting better risk management and paving the way for advanced controls like micro-segmentation. Visibility builds on segmentation by monitoring the zones that we set up there with asset inventories, protocol inspection, and compensating controls. We can better quantify OT risk. Protocol-aware policies and virtual patching then help protect legacy devices that can't be patched directly. SOC and incident response. So incident response can't stop at IT. OT requires its own playbooks, its own training, and integration into SecOps. By preparing cross-team drills and leveraging ML-driven tools, we ensure faster detection and coordinated response when a breach impacts critical operations. Platform approach. Point solutions don't really scale in OT. Platform approach consolidates vendors, reduces complexity, and integrates IT and OT controls for better visibility and centralized management. With AI-driven tools, platforms can even automate threat hunting and vulnerability response, easing the burden on security teams. Operational technology also requires that specialized threat intelligence to combat things like the pipe dream kit or other similar kits that have been created. Generic feeds just aren't enough. We need protocol-aware, industry-specific intel that delivers real-time protection. Pairing that with OT-specific IPS signatures gives us the ability to block malicious traffic before it impacts critical operations. So together, these best practices form really the backbone of OT security. Segmentation creates the defensible zones. Visibility gives us insight into assets and risk. And SOC integration ensures coordinated response on those risks. A platform approach simplifies that security while scaling the protection, and OT-specific threat intelligence keeps defenses current against evolving attacks. Together, these provide a resilient and adaptive security foundation. So across the board, we see strong alignment between maturity level and security outcomes. Taking a look here at our cybersecurity maturity scale, we see organizations at level 3 and 4 have fewer intrusions, faster response times, and better visibility. So this maturity isn't just a score, it's really a predictor of resilience. This cybersecurity maturity scale, is based on CMMI, NIST, and ARC standards, and it helps us benchmark how OT organizations are progressing. At level 1, security is reactive and ad hoc. By level 2, we start to see documentation and some consistent processes. Level 3 introduces data-driven decision-making, and level 4 is where continuous improvement kicks in. Globally, most organizations today sits between levels 2 and 3, and that's progress, but it's not enough. True resilience begins at that level 4. So this chart from 2025 shows where most organizations currently fall in terms of OT solution maturity. Most respondents say they reached the access and profiling phase. That means they have some role-based controls and visibility, but often lack orchestration, anomaly detection, and advanced threat response. Fewer have reached predictive behavior or automation. So while awareness is rising, we're still early in the life cycle for a lot of these organizations. So if we look now at process maturity rather than solution maturity, this tells us a slightly more encouraging story. Nearly 49% have level 4 maturity, meaning they're incorporating feedback, performing reviews, and optimizing processes based on real-world outcomes. So if we compare that to just a couple of years ago, it's really a significant step forward. We're seeing governance, accountability, and security culture become institutionalized, not just reactive. So that process versus solution maturity is really a critical comparison. Organizations often have high process maturity without equivalent solution maturity. So they have policies, playbooks, and tabletop exercises, but lack the asset visibility or threat detection tooling in the OT environment to handle those risks. And that gap is really where that festers, right? Most secure organizations have both mature processes and mature technical controls. So here's another important correlation. Overall, cybersecurity maturity increases, so does OT security posture. So as long as we have both of those going up, we're able to really more significantly protect these threat landscapes. Organizations at level 4 process maturity are far more likely to have segmented networks, visibility, and incident response workflows that include OT. It confirms, what we talked about throughout the maturity scale here. Maturity isn't abstract; it has measurable impact on operational resilience. So here is a graph of the cybersecurity features adoption trends. This really shows what's currently deployed across the surveyed organizations. While some technologies like threat intelligence and security orchestration are on the rise in the black there, others have dropped. Network access control and internal segmentation saw a decline from last year, possibly due to vendor consolidation or integration challenges. But scheduled audits and SOC integration are trending upwards, which indicates that many teams are shifting their focus towards continuous monitoring and proactive defense. However, that doesn't mean that access control or segmentation are any less critical or foundational to securing OT environments. It just means the focus has kind of changed to those more shiny security options. Across the board, we're seeing encouraging trends, more executive leadership, better process maturity, and growing awareness of OT-specific risks. But while we also see a clear call to action to close the gap between strategy and execution, between planning and tooling. The most resilient OT environments are those that integrate governance, architecture, and security while adapting to real-world challenges of legacy systems, remote access, and convergence. So now that we've looked at maturity models and adoption trends, let's transition into how we actually apply those insights to a real-world OT environment. This diagram represents a high-level, layered view of converged IT and OT architecture, and it's where security controls start to take shape in a really tangible way. So at the top, we have traditional enterprise IT, your NOC, SOC, and business systems. Below that, we have DMZ that acts as a critical buffer zone, which houses jump servers, patch repositories, VPN concentrators, and facilitates controlled access into the OT environment. Moving further down, we have the OT layers, SCADA servers, engineering workstations, operator HMIs, and eventually down to PLCs, RTUs, and the actual sensors and actuators controlling those physical processes. This layered design enables us to enforce zones and conduits and lets us tightly manage communications between security zones based on function and trust level. So controls begin to stack at every layer there. Role-based access starts in the IT layer but extends into operator consoles. Patch management is carefully isolated to OT staging areas, and deception technologies like decoy hosts or honeypots can be placed in engineering zones that detect lateral movement. Monitoring and logging should be enforced across all the conduits, from the DMZ to field devices. This architecture also helps enforce least privilege and segregation of duties. So there should never be an operator workstation with unrestricted access to engineering systems and the business network. This diagram sets the foundation for the next slide, where we'll break out the individual security controls and their role in protecting the full cybersecurity stack. So here's a quick recap of each of those things and what an ideal OT security architecture includes. Our zones and conduits for segmentation, protecting OT from mistakes and bad actors, secure remote connectivity to make sure that those risks that are inherent in remote access are better protected and there's actually visibility and true authentication against those devices. Deep OT visibility. This is really a key factor. There's many OT organizations that simply don't know what lives in their OT environments. There's maybe 30% that's still missing from a lot of those visibility systems. Role-based access control, always need to limit access to only those who need true access to that system. Endpoint security, whether that's things like antivirus or if that's endpoint hardening, those solutions need to be included to have true visibility and control of those endpoint systems. IT and OT NOC SOC convergence, very important that those teams start to coordinate rather than there being a distinct network team and a distinct security team. The more that those organizations and solutions are able to interact with each other, the faster that threat intelligence can cross that board and make sure that it can have action taken against it. Advanced persistent threats. So this is things like insider threats or potentially, ransomware or malware that finds its way into the network and remains there for a significant portion of time. Things like sandboxing, deception, or potentially AI tools are really the way to combat advanced persistent threats and that ilk. So are there any questions now that we've kind of gone through each of those things for OT security? Well, I appreciate your time. If you, oh, please.
You had mentioned the You had mentioned the continuous monitoring, but how are you collecting the logs? Is it at the network layer or down at the host?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both, and it depends on how evolved your solution is. It's definitely at the logging level, on either the IT side or the OT side. But the more secure systems would have something for pooling either an agent on those control systems or something like there's certain vendors that do network access control that directly profile those solutions to make sure that they can pull all the logging and protocol information off those devices to then share back up to those other logging systems or SIM controls. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. I appreciate your time today. I hope the insights from the 2025 OT and cybersecurity report were helpful and helped to continue that conversation with your organizations. And if you want to continue that side of the conversation, feel free to visit us at our booth we're booth 406. And we also have hard copies of that cybersecurity and OT report, so feel free to pick that up while you're there. Thank you.